pack dozens of strangers into a confined space, each with varying criminal charges, mental health statuses, and behavioral histories, and the result is a highly volatile environment. Without a rigorous sorting mechanism, the interactions within a jail are left entirely to chance. In Maine jails, the operational tool used to bring order to this environment is inmate classification. This process dictates housing placements, the required level of staff supervision, and an individual's access to internal programs. A person's housing placement often has little to do with their specific criminal charge. While it might seem intuitive to put violent charges in one unit and nonviolent in another, Maine's population architecture relies on objective, verified data points instead of criminal labels. Maine's county and municipal jails operate under strict standards published by the State Department of Corrections. These regulations demand an objective methodology for all housing decisions. Instead of relying on the intuition of local staff, administrators must base classification on quantifiable, verifiable data streams. The system is engineered to eliminate arbitrary judgments. A miscalculation here carries immediate consequences. Placing a vulnerable inmate into the general population invites violence, while placing a low-risk individual into restrictive housing drains facility resources without justification. The process requires balancing the rigid physical and staffing constraints of the facility with the specific medical, behavioral, and mental health realities of the people inside. Classification serves as an active engineering tool, applying systemic data to manage the day-to-day risk of housing a fluctuating population. The procedural architecture of this system activates the moment a person is admitted to a facility. This diagram outlines the intake pipeline. Initial classification must be completed within exactly 72 hours of admission. Staff synthesize verified criminal records, medical conditions, mental health needs, and behavioral history. Processing these variables yields an assigned security level and a physical housing placement. That initial placement governs the inmate's daily reality, defining their movement allowances and determining their eligibility for internal work programs. The 72-hour window exists to rapidly transform an unknown, unpredictable human variable into a quantified, managed operational profile. This initial placement is temporary. The framework is built to adapt as new behavioral data emerges during incarceration. This circular feedback loop demonstrates the required review cycles. Staff must conduct a formal reevaluation within 15 days of the initial assignment. From there, subsequent reviews must occur at minimum 90 days for the remainder of custody. The inmates are not passive subjects in this matrix. The system is bound by legal principles of due process. Incarcerated individuals must receive formal written notice of their classification level, and they are guaranteed an opportunity to respond to the decision. If an individual believes the assignment relies on incorrect data, they have the right to formally request a review or appeal the classification. To prevent administrative gridlock, an appeal can only be filed once every 60 days. Throughout this ongoing cycle, Maine explicitly requires the basis for every single classification decision to be documented in writing. This temporal loop and the resulting paper trail ensure that a person's placement in restrictive housing is continually justified by current behavior. Beyond behavioral and medical data, local administrators must navigate legal filters that act as hard constraints on their operational decision-making. This decision tree matrix visualizes legal boundaries. Maine establishes an absolute prohibition. Race, religion, sex, sexual orientation, age, disability, or national origin can never be used as the basis for classification. The state does enforce a specialized bypass policy regarding gender identity, safely navigating facility operations. Jails must respect an individual's consistently held gender identity for housing assignments and search practices, regardless of physical anatomy. This alignment is mandatory unless it triggers a specific operational exception. The threshold for an override is high. Staff can only alter placement by documenting that alignment creates severe management problems or threatens the inmate's safety. Similarly stringent rules apply to minimum security residential facilities. These beds are reserved strictly for inmates posing a verifiable minimal risk to the community. They cannot be used as a tool for easing facility overcrowding. Maine law forces administrators to weigh civil rights and operational security as legally integrated variables, rejecting generic one-size-fits-all housing rules. Managing this environment involves overlapping jurisdictions, placing a heavy burden on the individuals running the facility. As this diagram shows, day-to-day operations are executed locally by county sheriffs and jail administrators. However, those local decisions are heavily constrained by the state-level Department of Corrections, with additional pressure in rulemaking from the County Corrections Professional Standards Council. Local administrators must constantly balance staffing shortages and facility limits against these rigid state requirements for fairness and documentation. The stakes of this balancing act are physical. Inadequate data collection or a missed behavioral flag leads directly to violence or medical emergencies inside the cell blocks. The civil stakes are equally severe. Ignoring mandated review cycles or legal filters exposes the county to targeted civil rights litigation and state sanctions. The resulting system is defined by individualized assessment, mandatory written documentation, and continuous objective review. Maine system maintains detention as a dynamic process, requiring constant written justification and documented review to meet state legal standards.